our Democratic candidates who qualified for the ballot. They were all invited, and it is my understanding that one of our candidates, Elaine Luria, is en route. However, she has not arrived, and indeed, being respectful of our time, we are going to start as close to time as possible. We have delayed it out of courtesy, but it's time to move forward. Fair enough? Okay. Given that information, I have a whole speech prepared, so just give me a minute. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for taking the time to be here tonight, and I'd especially like to thank our candidates for their willingness to serve and to participate in this event, as well as our audience, and for your commitment to being informed and engaged in the democratic process. Tonight's purpose is simple: to give each candidate an opportunity to introduce themselves, share their vision, and help voters make an informed decision in the upcoming election. To keep our program fair and on schedule, each candidate will have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. Please use your time to tell us who you are, why you are running, and what you hope to accomplish if elected. After every candidate has completed their introduction, we will move into our audience question and answer session. Here are the guidelines for that portion of the evening. Audience members may direct one question to the candidate of their choice. One question to one candidate, being respectful of the room and additional questions. Each audience member will have up to 3 minutes to ask their question. The candidate that is being asked will then be able to address the question. They will have up to 3 minutes to respond. We ask that questions be concise, relevant to the office being sought, and asked in a respectful manner. And I'd also like to ask something of our candidates. We are all Democrats, gathered here because we share a commitment to serving our community. Healthy debate and differences of opinion are normal and a valuable part of the democratic process. However, I ask each of you to treat your fellow candidates with respect and professionalism throughout tonight's discussion. Please focus on your own qualifications, ideas, and vision, rather than personal attacks or criticisms of those sharing this stage. Once the primary election is over, we all will have a common goal. Our true opponent is not in this room. Our true opponent is the Republican candidate who will appear on the ballot in the general election. Tonight is an opportunity to demonstrate the values of civility, leadership, and unity that voters expect from those seeking public office. So let's make this an evening of thoughtful discussion, mutual respect, and meaningful engagement with the voters we all hope to serve. We will have additional time at the end of this event to network and speak more intimately with the candidates. All right, thank you all again for joining us, and let's begin. I wish each and every candidate the best for this very evening. So with that in mind, we'll start with Patrick Mossoff, who is running for CD2. Let's see, so yes, you get this. This is for questions.
Good evening, Suffolk Democrats. Are you ready to take back our country?
Yes.
Are you ready to take back our country from Donald Trump?
Yes.
Are you ready to defeat Jen Kiggans this November?
Yes.
All right. I am Patrick Mossoff, and I'm running for Congress here in the 2nd Congressional District. I'm the husband to a naturalized citizen and the father of 2 small children, aged 2 and 5 years old. And as a young man, I decided that I wanted to make a difference in the world. I basically decided I wanted to devote my life to changing things in this country and in the world. All right. Is it this mic that has a problem? Okay. All right. Can you hear me? Okay, great. As a young man, I decided that I wanted to make a difference in the world. I grew up in Point Pleasant, Ohio, but I commuted to school in Cincinnati. I was a national merit finalist, which means I was in the top 1% of scores. I went to Northwestern University, and my Aunt Joan lived in Chicago at that time. She was a civil rights activist. She knew Dr. Martin Luther King. She was a women's rights activist and environmentalist, and she inspired me to devote my life to changing things in this country and in the United States. And after I got out of school, I went back to Cincinnati and I worked in a low-income community in an area where there's a lot of homeless people. It was about 70% black and 30% white. And I became the director of a homeless shelter for 18 men, and later I went on to work in one of Cincinnati's largest homeless shelters, or the largest homeless shelter, the Drop-In Center. And in the year 2000, I went overseas, and again, I was looking, I felt at the time after the Clinton administration that the US was in a pretty good place. The real poverty is overseas. The environmental destruction is in other countries, like in Brazil. We've got wars going on in other countries. I really wanted to find, the worst thing that I could possibly find, and I wanted to make a difference. So I went overseas, and I ended up working in many different countries. I worked in Turkey briefly, spent many years working in Cambodia for a variety of international nonprofits, for the UN, and finally for USAID. I worked for the UN mission in Liberia. I also worked for International Human Rights Organization in Burma or Myanmar. And I also worked with USAID in Bangladesh and Lebanon. Overall in my career, I worked 30 seconds? Wow. Okay, well, goodness. My platform has 3 pillars: reconciliation, lowering the cost of living, and restoring our democracy. And my campaign motto is, together we can restore democracy and the American dream. That's my vision, that together we will restore American democracy, and we will restore the American dream so that people can have a good standard of living again. Thank you very much. I'm asking for your vote this year between now and August 4th. I believe I am the best candidate in this race. I am asking for your support. Thank you very much.
All right, Tristan, let me know when. I was gonna say these timers are crazy. I thought we had 5 minutes. Is this only 3? Oh goodness. Okay. All right. Was I thought? Oh. Okay. Well, we'll go with 3. Do you want to continue for 2 minutes? Here you go.
All right. So, okay, 2 more minutes. So I believe that our country is now in the midst of a crisis. There's a crisis in the United States now, and I can talk about that in several different aspects. One is the affordability and the general decline in the standard of living, which is especially affecting young people. We have a climate crisis and the threats to biodiversity. We have a national debt crisis, $39 trillion in debt, of which $3.4 trillion has Trump's name on it from the Big Beautiful Bill last year. Social Security is running out of funding. Medicaid has been cut. Global crises are going on. And now we have the AI issue. AI is affecting our employment situation, and surveillance is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. These are the issues that our country is facing, and now Trump has added onto it a democratic crisis, a crisis of governance. He's also added onto it a crisis in our relations with the rest of the world. And we're also falling behind in research and development and scientific achievement. And China is overtaking us because of this Trump administration's decision to cut funding to basic research. So we need new leadership, I believe. We need new leadership in this district. We need new leadership in the United States, and we need new leadership in the Democratic Party. But I'm not talking about Leslie, of course. And I'm not talking about the local Democratic chapters. We need new leadership in the Democratic Party, and that means we need a new candidate in this district. I already mentioned about my platform, the 3 pillars of the platform: reconciliation in society, lowering the cost of living or increasing people's income, or restoring our democracy. And those 3 things are encapsulated in my vision for the United States. Together we can restore democracy and the American dream. Again, I'm asking for your vote. Thank you very much. Between now and August 4th.
All right. Thank you, Patrick, for being the guinea pig. I'm sorry. And just want to say, okay, let me know when I'm ready. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Neela Devenith, and I am running for the 2nd Congressional District here in Virginia. To introduce myself, I know there's a lot of familiar faces, but there's a couple of new ones too. My parents immigrated here from Bangladesh 40 years ago, and they made Hampton Roads their home. I grew up in Chesapeake and Suffolk. I actually went to high school here, and I have been a member of this community now for almost 40 years. I am a Harvard-trained attorney, a Yale-trained doctor who practices, thank you. Listen, only God got me through that. I am here now practicing in our community as an acute care hospital doctor. And the reason I started running for Congress was because of what I saw with our patients and community members. Many of you have already heard me speak about my most common patient. I used to work for the VA, but now I work for the community hospitals. But still, almost every other patient I see is a veteran who has diabetes and has a foot infection that has spread from the toe to the foot and sometimes the leg. And what I'm doing, unfortunately, is having to call a surgeon to cut off a leg. And that is every couple of months. This is terrible. And you know, I've actually had some other veteran patients just a few weeks ago who couldn't get an appointment at the VA for about 9 months and was having headaches, came to the emergency room, and turns out they had a brain tumor, right? So this is the stuff that we're seeing, and it's all preventable. It's preventable, right? If we have better access to care. I'm supporting universal health care. This is about, yes, 100% Medicare for all. This is about human dignity. Everyone deserves to not only survive, but to thrive. I'm also working to lower costs for families here. There is an act that I support called the Working Americans Tax Cut Act. I actually went up to DC, talked to congresspeople, talked to senators, went to conferences, and did my research because I wanted to know what can give us relief right now. I also support taxing billionaires and corporations. They are taking advantage of working families. They are burning our planet, and they are profiting off of genocide. And I want to be that exactly. No, but and this is the thing. I want to be very clear. My stances in terms of foreign policy are this. I do not take any APAC money. I don't take any corporate PAC money. I think that Israel and the military of Israel and the government of Israel has gone too far in what they have done in Palestine, which is a genocide. There are tens of thousands of children who have died. We really have to question that. And, you know, we have the National Defense Authorization Act that just passed with kind of a blank check for that cooperation. And we need to ask why. Why are we in this war with Iran? We are sending our service members into harm's way, and we're not even sure why. Gas prices are going up. It's affecting our economy. It's affecting everyone here at home. And I don't think that's okay. So I'm here for universal health care, for lowering costs for working families, for taxing the billionaires and making corporations pay their fair share, and also making sure that nobody profits off of genocide and that we stop these unending wars. I have been endorsed by Tidewater DSA and many community leaders throughout Hampton Roads and District 2. I am here as your progressive candidate, and I think that we need a new voice and a new perspective. I also will say that in this process, what I found out is that we're in a historic time. The Voting Rights Act is being gutted. Majority-minority districts are being redistricted, and we do not have enough Black and brown voices in leadership. We just don't. And when we don't have that, this is what happens, right? I mean, this has been 237 years in this district that it has existed. Not one of those years has there ever been a person of color to represent this district. And this district deserves representation now. Okay? I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I'm here to answer any questions afterwards as well. Thank you so much.
Just like to remind everyone while the candidates are speaking, we do have a time limit on them, so if you're interrupting them, you're potentially eating into their time. As much as, you know, I know everybody likes to show their support, we'd just like to hear everything they have to say.
Hi, my name is Bill Fleming. I was here 2 years ago because I wanted to get on the Ag Committee I didn't get enough signatures, so I have been spending the past 2 years doing things like reading about the Enlightenment and the formation of the government. The Enlightenment was the start of our government, not religion. The three branches of the government were conceived of by a guy named Montesquieu in France. But I still want to get on the Ag Committee because I believe the farmers need to have a lot of support. I have a lot of background with soil science, and I'm a director on the Soil and Water Conservation District in Virginia Beach, and heavily involved with multiple environmental groups. I went to school in Petersburg, Virginia for elementary. We went to England for 2 years, and then I finished high school in Alexandria, so I consider myself a long-term Virginian. And I have a lot of, well, I took the 4th grade history stuff. Anybody that takes 4th grade Virginia history has been indoctrinated into what Virginia was and can be. As far as issues go, the first one I have now, besides the Ag Committee stuff, which is kind of further down on the list, is to protect the Constitution and the rule of law. Some of the things that have been done by Trump are going to require amendments to the Constitution, like the corruption around the paroles, where he's making millions of dollars by essentially selling paroles to people. The idea that the Supreme Court is allowing him to be beyond the law needs to be changed, so that we need to make sure that no man is above the law, including the president and anybody else, including his family. So that's one of the primary ones. I'm also a Bernie supporter and strong on healthcare for all. I would want to work with Bernie and Elizabeth Warren to find a decent option for healthcare for all. And I'm sure that if once it is enacted, it would be so good that everybody would drop away from the expensive health insurance programs. In 2013, I went to Tim Kaine's office and suggested a solution for student loans. He wasn't on the education committee, but about 5 months later, Elizabeth Warren introduced a bill that was exactly what I was proposing, but it was killed by the banking lobbies and the Republicans. So one of the things I'd want to do is eliminate student loans from as many people as possible by introducing what I had introduced before back in 2013. National debt is approaching $40 trillion. It's unsustainable. We need to do something about that, which means taxing the billionaires and the millionaires so that they are paying their fair share. They've been skimming off of us, all of us. You can sometimes feel their hand in your pocket for years. Then we need to reverse that. Immigration reform is an issue that is the wall, and all of the problems that are happening with ICE here and elsewhere are because the Republicans have refused to do anything about a comprehensive Immigration Reform Act. We need to get that done, including all of the issues, including ICE and Homeland Security. Education reform is a problem. The Department of Education never has really been in the classroom, but we have probably 55 to 60% of the American people who cannot read beyond the 6th grade level. That tells, despite the things the different school boards say, which they do a great job, we need to do more and do it better for everybody. If we had people that could read better, maybe they wouldn't be MAGA types. I'm also for passing the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act needs to be probably reviewed and modified because of all the stupidity and the dangerous things they've been doing. But the Voting Rights Act is critical for us. And as far as local economic issues, I was driving back from an NC State meeting at 10 seconds. Okay. Windmills are usually built by companies and are sold to make money. But my suggestion is that counties own their own windmills and solar farms, accumulate money by selling the revenue from those and reimbursing all of the people in their county for all or part of their electrical bills. And if there's any left over, they can use it for other things like social services so that the people in that county benefit. That can be done. It's codified in the Code of Virginia. There's no legal issue to do that. But I would want to make sure that we get the money for that by being in Congress.
Are we just doing questions next? Right. Yeah, so we're opening up to the floor. Anybody who has questions can come up here. We'll get this mic set up and you can start asking your questions. We ask that you direct your questions to a single candidate. You'll get 3 minutes to ask. They'll have 3 minutes to respond. Do you want to come up? Let me try this one and see if it's working after replugging it. Do you want to try this one?
Okay, thank you. My name is Justin T. Beerge, and my question is directed to our candidate, Neela Devanoff. Forgive me if I mispronounced that last name. As you all know, or you may not know, Congress was trying to pass a rule that they could not buy and sell stock. And Elaine Luria voted against that rule. As you know, our representatives go up to Congress. They make $174,000 a year, and yet after 2 or 3 terms, they all come back millionaires. So who are they really representing? So my question for Neela is, if she had an opportunity to vote for a rule against congressmen buying and selling stock, would she vote for that?
Thank you so much, Justin. And the answer to that is I would absolutely vote against stock trading in Congress, individual stock trading. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I am actually part of the End Citizens United Unrig Washington campaign. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the support. It's important. And I took the pledge because you're right. People go to Congress and unfortunately, in just a couple of terms, maybe sometimes double or triple their lifetime's net worth. Imagine that. You've been working for 40, maybe even 50 years, and then all of a sudden in 4 years, your entire life's net worth doubles, triples. And people have information at that level of power that we just don't have, right? Even if they say, oh, well, you know, I was in a committee meeting and that information became public later, it's not public at the instance that it's heard, right? And with stock trading, everything goes on a second-by-second basis. And when you have that information, you know, when everybody out here is struggling to survive, sometimes working 1, 2, maybe even 3 jobs, do you think that they have the time to research all of that? No. I don't think it's fair. And in addition to that, I don't think that the family members, the immediate family members of congresspeople should have the ability to trade stocks either. Why? It's just common sense, right? You're going to talk to your husband or your wife, right? So, yeah, we should ban it for all congresspeople, period.
Also, if you're online, if you have any questions, can you post them in the chat and I'll try to read them as they come up.
Hey everybody, my name's Steve Weir. First, I'd like to ask if we could have an impromptu format change because I'd really like to hear what the other 2 had to say about that. Is there any way that we could do that? Go to 1-minute answers, but allow everybody to answer the question. I'd like to understand what they both have. Is that? Everybody agree? Okay.
We'll wait.
Thank you.
Do we have a quorum?
Is that okay?
Yeah. I would also propose that they both get 3 minutes for this since Neela's got 3. Yeah.
Oh, should I have stood up for that?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a great format change because you never know who's going to ask what question to which candidate. So I agree. I think that I've talked to so many voters, especially at the voting for the April 21st political redistricting referendum, and so many people talked about this issue. There's a widespread perception that members of Congress are corrupt. The percentage of people who believe that Congress is corrupt is very, very high. Now, I've worked overseas where there's other kinds of corruption, like you pay the police and you get out of trouble, but this is like a different kind of corruption, right? This is kind of corruption where you're using insider knowledge, and I was surprised at the statistics and also how many people actually mentioned this. So I also agree, and I think there's a building movement to ban stock trading for members of Congress, and I support that as well. And that the legislation that I've seen, and there's a number of different versions of it in Congress, it also bans stock trading for immediate family members as well. So I think that if we want to restore confidence in our government and perceptions of Congress are very low, then we need to take these measures. And I'd also like to mention, while I'm thinking about it, some of the versions of this bill exempt the executive branch, specifically President Trump, which is just ridiculous. I think it was just last week that there was evidence that I don't know how many thousands of trades he had made in like one quarter or something like that. And he has made billions of dollars during this administration alone through stock trading and through meme coins. So the Republicans are trying to dress this up like, okay, yeah, we'll just have it be only for Congress. But I definitely think the president and certainly higher members of each department, I don't know whether I would say like every person who works for the federal government, that would be a detail to work on later. But overall, I definitely support that. And like I said, it will restore confidence in our government. Thank you.
Excuse me for not wiggling past the gap in the table. It's interesting that this subject was brought up. I was told when I was considering running that Elaine Luria was anointed or asked to run by Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi's made millions and her husband has made millions. In fact, there's a mutual fund on the stock market called Nancy, N-A-N-C, which is based upon people making trades after Nancy Pelosi or her husband make trades. There's also a Republican version as well. But I thought that was funny. My son had told me about that. One of my sons had told me about that. There are different ways that people can be corrupted in Congress. One of them is by insider trading. The other is bribes from large corporations. And a group called AIPAC, which I expect a lot of you have heard about. Someone on the Young Democrats last night asked Elaine Luria about her involvement with AIPAC, and she sort of brushed it off by saying that nobody from AIPAC is donating, but she's taken a lot of money from the large corporations and a lot of money from AIPAC, which made me think about the fact that the first time she won, instead of going to Washington to set up her office and find a place to stay, she went to Israel for 2 weeks. And that puzzled me, why in a situation that's so important, she would go to Israel instead of going to Washington. So one of the things that I'm strong about is to ending Citizens United and large donations from corporations, but also AIPAC. Even just yesterday, actually, there was an article that there's a nonprofit group associated with AIPAC that is starting to get involved in creating legislation in local elections in districts, statewide elections, and also local ones. So what in the hell is Israel doing trying to meddle in our politics? So we need to stop AIPAC and in their influence. 30 seconds? Okay. I'm against the idea of stock trading. I have investments, but I've also trained one of my sons, or taken my son to training on how to do investing, and I would turn it all over to him. And I'm sure that it would be all above board, because I seldom hear him talk to him that much, because he's got a son and his own issues that he's dealing with, like we all do. So I'm sure that he bought some shares in Nancy and the Republican version, and I didn't even know about it. So thanks.
All right, so I get to actually ask my question now, and I'll preface it with saying that I'm a little bit frustrated with how the country views what an income is and what is earned. My question to you each is, what do you feel the average American actually earns? And then above that, how much is income that is not actually earned based on either you get a leg up at birth, you get a God-given talent, i.e. sports people, you're stiffing your employees, or you're stiffing your customers. One of those four really above. What level do you feel is that earned income stops and it takes off with some version of greed, I suppose, if you will? Or, I mean, it's all gray, but definitely above, in my opinion, it's very immoral to be a billionaire. But anyway, that's my question, is what level above which is earnings stop and it becomes income? Thank you.
I just want to do a quick proposal on this new format, so I think we should probably alternate who gets to respond first for 3 questions. Do we still want to stick to 3 minutes? Do we want to get it shorter, try to keep on time? 1 minute? Yeah. Okay, so we'll start with Patrick. You can start with this one. We'll alternate who starts. I think so, yeah, 1 minute. 1 minute for each respondent.
So 3 minutes per question, 3 minutes for him, 3 minutes for her, 3 minutes.
Yeah. Let's,
I think 1 minute would be good.
yeah. Okay. I'd say 2 minutes is probably good. 2 minutes good with anybody? 1 minute.
So what's the final decision?
I'll do 90 seconds each. Just. Yeah, 90 seconds each.
The spirit of compromise. So I mentioned that, as a young man, I was an idealist and I wanted to solve problems. So I spent a lot of time actually studying about economic systems, in particular, like the contrast between communism and capitalism. And, I learned a lot about, especially like what left-wing movements are essentially. And I, then I went overseas and actually went to some countries that were communist before, like Cambodia, for example. I've been to Vietnam, I went to China. I've never been to North Korea, but, the end conclusion I came up with is that, I don't think communism is the answer. There's kind of some conflation of communism and socialism, of course. But I think that, we have a good system in some ways, which is that it does reward sort of ingenuity. It does reward innovation. It does reward hard work. It does reward people that, have a great deal of education. But on the other hand, I think that our system is set up in such a way that it actually ends up, that some people are able to accumulate like a huge amount, actually, especially through investment vehicles like the stock market. So like, if you ask yourself how a billionaire ends up with now Elon Musk might have $1 trillion, it's basically through the mechanism of the stock market, through having founded a company which then later just vastly expands in value. We're an incredibly wealthy country, and I think that, it should be more distributed. There's no reason why our country should be the way it is. So I think that we need to look deeply at what systemic mechanism we can use to make sure that the vast wealth of this country is better distributed to everyone so that everyone can have a good lifestyle. American dream, as I mentioned.
Hello, folks. Can everybody hear me? All right. So I think the question, if I'm not mistaken, was at what actual point that you think. But I would probably have to do more research, but I think that just based off of what I know, trillionaires are obviously out, billionaires are obviously out, and then the question really comes to millionaires, right? I'll just give you a little anecdote. There are many millionaires in this country, and there's so many that, or maybe not so many, but so few, well, there's a bunch, that there's actually a group. It's called, have you guys heard of this? It's called the Patriotic Millionaires. And they are a group of millionaires who actually want to pay more in taxes in order to benefit the greater good, which I'm like, that's awesome. Who are these guys, you know, right? But that being said, if that type of a group exists, my inclination is probably at $1 million, right? Thank you so much. You know, that's just kind of off of the top of my head, because I think, you know, people can live a very happy life with their income all the way up to $1 million. I think after that, you know, we really have to think about taxing, you know, and I'm in support of Elizabeth Warren's tax on ultra millionaires, so multimillionaires, because it would generate about $6 trillion worth of revenue that could go towards education and immigration and a bunch of other social policies that we need. So thank you.
As far as government goes, my foundation principles are based upon the preamble of the Constitution, which is ignored. But one of the key things that, I just lost it, is that in the center of the preamble, it talks about promoting the general welfare and ensuring the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And a lot of that requires wealth accumulation for the people, so that they can develop wealth accumulation for their families, their children as well. That's one of the things I've been trying to do. Multimillionaires and billionaires don't earn a salary like we do. Our income taxes are based upon earnings. They borrow money from their stocks and their companies, and then they live off their loans. And then when they have to repay it, they just take another loan out. So they're constantly floating above everything. There's also a huge amount of fraud in this country. My oldest daughter-in-law's father was in a psych company, a psychology practice, where the bookkeeper was embezzling them. They didn't even know it, because they just thought that she was honest. But there's a lot of dishonesty that goes on, and I think that kind of relates to the question that you're asking. I'm not sure about people doing gig economies, but I think that there's a lot of fraud that goes on.
Hello, my name is Bill Johnson Miles. I'm from Virginia Beach here. I have asked Elaine Lurie this question. Would she vote to impeach our current president? She said she would, but under certain conditions. My question to you is, would you vote to impeach? Would you add any conditions to it? And why or why not?
I definitely would vote to get to impeach Donald Trump. Probably a lot of the others too. I would refer to a special prosecutor to be prosecuted for the things that they do. He's been involved in so much corruption that it's beyond doubt in my mind that he isn't guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. Another aspect besides the preamble to the Constitution is a theory it's a practice that truth and morality should be the rule and guide of your faith toward all mankind. And none of those people, particularly Trump and his family, have truthfulness involved with their lives or morality. If they had truth and morality, then we wouldn't have the problems that we're having now. So that's one of the things that I would probably put on my wall going to Congress is that truth and morality should be the rule and guide of our actions toward all mankind. Under no conditions would I allow him to get out of this.
Thank you, Bill. I would absolutely vote to impeach him. I don't think that any conditions are necessary. As Bill mentioned, he's already a criminal. 10 times, 1,000 times over, right? There's no need to qualify that. It's in plain sight for all of us to see every day on the news. I mean, the list can go on and on. So my answer is yes, I would vote to impeach, no conditions.
You know, how many people in here are a veteran? All right. How many of you were told when you were going overseas to fight that you were doing it to defend freedom? How many of you were told that you're doing it to defend democracy or promote democracy in other countries? Well, on January 6th, 2021, what happened in this country? I mean, that was the end for me. That was it. You know, I spent so many years in foreign countries trying to bring democracy to other countries because I believe that that is the best system for people, because it gives everyone a chance to remove their government if their government is no good. It forces your representatives to be responsive and to anticipate what the voters might do. I was in Cambodia. I worked to promote democracy in Burma or Myanmar. I implemented elections in Liberia. When that guy wrongfully tried to overturn the results of the 2020 election, and he has never backed off from it, that's it. 26 seconds. But now you get to Trump version 2. It's over the top. It's Steve Bannon's playbook, flood the zone. I can't even, if you ask me right now to tell you what Trump has done, like my brain, like I can hardly even recall, because it's just been so overwhelming. This guy has done so many things, but I truly believe that he is assaulting our democratic system. Many experts say our country will have difficulty recovering from Trump's second administration. Thank you. Yes, yes. No conditions.
Bishop Stayden, the youngest to ever run for mayor, also runner-up with the most votes, 11,000 Commissioner of Revenue. This is just a question for our senior citizens. Let me just read this real quickly. Yes, millions of our senior citizens are significantly struggling due to a combination of fixed income, soaring inflation, and the escalating cost of housing and health care. Surging living costs have rapidly outpaced Social Security and pension increases, forcing some retirees back into the workforce. If you're elected, what plan do you have for our senior citizens to thrive, being that they are the babysitters now because mom and dad has to work so much because things are getting bad in the 757?
Thank you, Bishop, for that question, and I absolutely understand that. My mom is actually watching my baby right now. I am, I'm actually, I think, the only working person right now here in this primary election. And our senior citizens are the people that I see in the hospital every day. Healthcare is being denied, right? Medicare and Medicaid have threats to, Medicaid's already been cut. My plan is for universal healthcare. This is Medicare for all. We need this for every single person, not just our senior citizens, but everyone. Because without it, everyone is falling through the cracks. That is what I am seeing in the hospital. People over 65, under 65, veteran, not veteran, children, everybody has a different health care plan, and that is what is stressing the entire system, and our seniors pay the price, right? Social Security is being, threatened as well. My plan is also for a tax cut for working families. So that is the Working Americans Tax Cut Act. It would actually give everybody who is at the average cost of living, which is around $45,000 to $50,000, no federal income tax. That's huge, right? Because talk about our seniors going back to work. That's going to help them too, and hopefully they won't have to. Thank you.
in addition to the Ag Committee and the Farm Bill helping farmers, there's also a more expensive and more important part of it that I'm concerned about, and that's SNAP and WIC, which are two programs mostly to help the youth and women with children. Both of those have been cut by Trump and the Republicans, and I think we need to restore those. For the seniors, they've lost coverage for home care or care in a facility. Those need to be strengthened as well. Bernie Sanders has proposed expanding and improving Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. I would work with him to improve all of those. As far as no taxes, I think a lot of people would like that, but we would need to see what happens when we require people in the upper classes to pay their share. And we need to also pay down the national debt.
So the question is about sort of like senior citizens that are struggling. Is that the question? Okay. It's interesting you bring that up because I think, within the category of people that we would call senior citizens, there's actually like a great wealth distribution. There's like wealthy senior citizens and there's also like extremely poor senior citizens, just as we touched on before with the kind of wealth distribution and is wealth earned. So, I've also been following a lot of online discussions where there's a lot of resentment actually felt by the young generations against the older generation, especially the baby boomer generation, because, they perceive that things were so much better off for the people that are in the baby boomer generation now, or the people who are senior citizens. So I wouldn't want to necessarily, and another example I saw the other day was, there was a proposal to completely eliminate like the property taxes for senior citizens. So, this is also gonna cripple local jurisdictions. So I think if you're looking at senior citizens and helping senior citizens, you need to really look at like all the different wealth distributions. And we usually do that with quintiles, the top quintile, the lowest quintile, and the three in between. So you might need to have targeted things for like the lower quintile and the second lowest quintile. In terms of Social Security, it's going to run out in 2032, and even people my age, I might not get Social Security. And for people that are 20 now or 25 now, I'm really concerned for you. So we need to do something about Social Security, and that might mean that we need to do more means-based testing. We might need to lift that cap where you might be aware that above a certain amount, you don't have to pay for Social Security. There's different ways we can address that, and we will if you elect me. Thank you.
Looks like we have a question. Ebony, do you have your hand raised? Oh, maybe not.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question for all three of the candidates. And that question is, Virginia's 2nd District is home to thousands of federal civilian employees and retired military personnel. Okay. What specific policies would you all pursue to strengthen the federal workforce while improving government efficiency? So just to make sure I heard your question right, you're asking what specific policy to support the federal workforce in CDO2? Federal workforce, military personnel, and veterans.
Yeah, federal workforce, military personnel, et cetera, and CDO2.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Ebony, for that question. And we absolutely need more jobs for our federal workforce here. CD2 is a very unique area. We have military families, we have veterans, and we have federal workers. We need to make sure that the cuts that happened during the Doge era are reversed and that all of those people are hired back in their current positions, in their previous positions. We also need more shipbuilding jobs. And in addition to that, for our military, one of the biggest things that we can do to support them is making sure that they are safe, right? 100%. We should not be sending our service members into harm's way unnecessarily. The war does not need to be happening right now. That's plain and simple. We don't know why we are sending our service members into harm's way, and that affects not only them, but it also affects every single family member that's tied to them. We all have family members, we all have neighbors, we have community members who are in our armed services, and having them go overseas to potentially be killed for stupid reasons is not okay. So that's what I would support.
So I actually am a former federal employee myself. So I was a federal employee with the U.S. Agency for International Development, and that is the one that really got hit by the DOGE cuts. So I'm not aware of any other major agency or department that was completely liquidated under DOGE, but USAID was, stupidly and foolishly. It was one of our greatest assets in terms of diplomacy. So basically, you know, if I wanted to keep working in USAID, I would, of course, that career path is cut off to me. Fortunately, I was a democracy and governance expert, and here I am now running for office to be in government. But I agree also that I think that we need to look very seriously at restoring all of the federal layoffs that were done. We've seen repeatedly in the news about how they've actually been forced to hire a lot of them back. We've seen repeatedly that the different agencies and departments have not been functional without all the people that they laid back. So I also agree that we need to look at hiring them back again. In terms of the military, I believe that the main thing is giving them a chance again to have access to the American dream. Give them a chance to have, you know, an opportunity to have a good life, and also to make sure that their benefits are being administered fairly by the Veterans Administration. So there's the Veteran Benefits Administration. There's a lot of issues around staffing and budget for that, and how they adjudicate benefits claims. And also, of course, the medical side of it, the medical benefits. And also, it's always important for a person in power to always think about, should we be sending someone overseas? Is it worth putting someone in harm's way? Decisions like Iraq and Afghanistan, those are things we should really be mulling over very carefully before we put our soldiers into danger and even worse. Thank you.
I wanted to quickly mention, somebody mentioned that Social Security is only going to go till about 2030 or so. The Bush administration borrowed $1.4 trillion to pay off the expenses of his wars. Prior to that, LBJ took over $1 trillion to cover the cost of Vietnam as well. One of the things I would want to do is submit legislation that the government pays Social Security Trust Fund back for all of the money that they took. As far as employees for the government, they need to be covered by stronger protections similar to those of collective bargaining and unionization that are not being gutted by the administration, this administration, or the Supreme Court. They need to be protected so that they feel that they have comfort and able to do their jobs with respect.
Make sure that Bill gets to go first next time. Yeah.
Hi, I'm glad y'all are here. All of this is all well and good, but if we have a Supreme Court that's crooked as hell, how do we fix that? It's almost to the point we have to rewrite our Constitution. You should not be able to lie and sit on the bench and take payouts and have your rent paid and have an RV paid off and all of the other stuff that's going on with the Supreme Court. So how do we fix the Supreme Court who just overturns everything?
It's interesting you bring that up. The idea of the three branches of the government is based upon each one of them acting independently, but there are people that are in control of all three of them right now, so we need to figure that out. as far as the Supreme Court goes, we need to have term limits. We need to have a strong ethics foundation, a code of ethics, and that they be audited about what they do. And if somebody is taking bribes or doing things that are unethical, we should take their asses out.
Oh, sure.
This is a really difficult question because, the Supreme Court, a lot of times, a lot of these issues are embedded in the Constitution. And, I have the comparative experience from looking at governmental systems in so many other countries. One of the things about our country which makes things so difficult, but you can also see it as a blessing, is how difficult it is to change our Constitution. It's almost impossible to change our Constitution or to amend the Constitution. But if you want to really do something about the Supreme Court, I think you have several options. One of them is to set term limits for members of the Supreme Court. Another option, other countries don't have the system like we have, where it's nominated by the president and then it's approved by the Senate, for example. In other countries, they might have a nonpartisan body which nominates someone for the Supreme Court. So other countries have a lot of experience that can be used to change the way our Supreme Court functions, but it's become extremely partisan. It's highly partisanized. A lot of times it's just kind of the luck of the draw. Like, does someone pass away when, so-and-so is president? Does someone pass away when another person is president? And then you see things like what Mitch McConnell did, which was just outrageous, where he refused to bring up the nominee during Barack Obama's final year. So a lot of this stuff is really going to be difficult. One last thing to mention is FDR tried to pack the court. He tried to increase the court dramatically, but because of checks and balances, Congress would not let him do that. So even FDR could not do it. So I think it's going to be really difficult, but one thing we can do is to get the term limits, and of course we also need to have anti-corruption laws and ethics laws in place.
All right. Thank you so much. I do believe that the Supreme Court needs term limits, and I think that goes for Congress as well, right? We need term limits for everyone who is elected and or appointed at that level of government. There's also, as mentioned, we can add seats to the Supreme Court. It will take a lot, maybe 29 months, I heard over there. We might need to change the Constitution to do that, but I think we have to at this point, right? We have gone too far. Empires fall at what? Is it around 250 years or 300 years? Not great. So we have to make a change. I think term limits are a start, code of ethics, auditing as well, but increasing the seats is what I would do.
Yeah, we're at about an hour since we started. Any other questions? Do you want to come up?
In this last week, we've had 2 shootings with ICE. We've had a man that was taken down here in Suffolk. It was horrible. What would you do? Could you explain anything in detail what your immediate action would be to stop this terrorist organization, ICE? Please.
You can go first.
Right? Am I first, guys? I don't know. You guys are keeping track out there. I don't know. So, okay. I don't know. Thank you for that question. I was actually at the protest the other day, and the reason I was there was because that man was assaulted in my neighborhood. I live 5 minutes from the emergency room. And it was so disturbing to see that video of 3 men holding him down and then a 4th basically kicking him in the back. What is the reason for that? There are so many members of our community who are working very hard, who are paying taxes who are just living here, and some people who have been living here for decades. We need a pathway to citizenship for our immigrant community members. I come from an immigrant family. My parents survived genocide in order to get to this country. I have birthright citizenship. And we need to abolish ICE. It's too far gone. It's too far gone. People don't have any training on how to handle people appropriately, and so it needs to go. We need to start over. That's it.
When I was at Fort Gordon, Georgia, when I was in the Army taking training in the Signal Corps, the military police was also headquartered there. They were taught not to draw their weapon and consider firing unless they were in imminent need. This current group seems to have been put together by fascists that seem to think that the group should be called the Gestapo rather than a law enforcement organization. I agree that it was set up incorrectly and its standards have not been sufficient. We need to remove ICE because it was corrupt from the beginning, set up by people that are corrupt and are perpetual liars. And we need to bring, again, truth and morality to the process. As far as other things go, like the Secret Service, which has its own corruption problems, and the FBI, I think we need to review law enforcement as part of the process of strengthening our Constitution and our government and the rule of law.
So I spent a lot of time overseas, and I think, you know, I've been to many other countries as a foreigner myself, and I think the United States and maybe Europe is like kind of a very unique situation. Like in most other countries, like, you know, you could not go, for example, to Thailand, and eventually you would end up, you know, either in some kind of prison or, you know, you might just be able to live on the lam for many years. And I think that's given me a different perspective. But on the other hand, I also believe that the United States or our democracy is something where it's not necessarily what I think necessarily, it's what the voters think, it's what the American people think. And I think for this issue, like I recognize that I should go with what the American people think. So I'm willing to take the solution that I think is the most representative of the American public. And I think the Democratic Party also needs to reflect on how this issue might influence our reception with the general public. But overall, I think for ICE specifically, my perception is that ICE has been sort of corrupted from within, and that there's come to be like an organizational culture within ICE, which has, you know, turned it into this horrible monster that we're seeing. I was shocked to see when Renee Good and Alex Pretty were killed in Minnesota. Like, I mean, I saw the video, I saw what happened, and then they called them domestic terrorists. It's just absolutely insane what happened. So I think ICE should basically be dissolved, and if the American people still think that we need ICE or something like ICE, then a similar type of agency can be reformulated. Thank you.
We definitely need change in government. And I will say this kind of in our closing remarks. Thank you all for being here. Candidates, thank you for participating. Thank you for coming and being susceptible, being vulnerable. Elaine Luria was invited. We received I want to say we received our RSVP that she was going to be here. It is my understanding that there were traffic issues in her traveling from DC to here. What I'm saying is that was what the information that I was given. Okay. She was definitely invited, and we did receive confirmation that she was intending to come, although I do note that we have an NBC. That's a different issue. I would thank those who did participate, who were willing to, indeed. willing to come and address our membership and take off the hip questions, not scripted, not prepared, not given in advance. We definitely want, I don't want to say we want more participation in the process. And thank you for thank you for coming here and doing that. At this time, thank you all for coming. We have a lot allocated, say about 15, 20 minutes for the end of this so that you can directly network and talk to and ask questions of our candidates and hopefully gain a good sense of, if you haven't already voted, please do so, but gain a good sense of who you will be supporting, recognizing that we've got an opportunity now to change CD2. We definitely have to get rid of Jen Kiggins. She hasn't been working for us. She's not a good representative. And so we've got 4 total candidates, 3 who came to share their vision and their expectations of the job, and explain how they would perform it for you. So thank you again for coming. Please avail yourself of the water in the back, network with our candidates, and we'll close this evening. We'll close this event. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you again.